As the dust settles on yet another dry edition of Paris-Roubaix, we thought we'd take a look back at the race, which was a true classic in every sense of the word. How exactly did Matt Hayman win the race? His 17th year as a pro, at 37 years of age, and his 15th time of trying.
Well, you say dry, Dan, but there were 3 patches of mud that had a disproportionately large effect on the outcome of the race.
They did, and more of that in a minute. Now, this year was the first year that we had live TV coverage from the very start of the race, giving us unprecedented insight into the ins and outs of how the early breakaway is formed. And in this race, almost more than in any other race, that early break can actually increase your chances of success in the race. Now, admittedly, you obviously still get the advantage of having teammates up the road, which can therefore support team leaders later in the race. But it can actually save you energy because you don't have to fight for position before every sector of pavé, even though you may have to spend longer in the wind. But getting into that early move is easier said than done. This year, it took 75k for the break to stick.
Yeah, it's certainly a big effort, but a big effort that can be very worthwhile. We've seen a few examples of that in recent years. So a couple of years ago, Martin Cielenghi, he managed to finish on the podium after being in the breakaway for the entire day. And Johan van Someren, when he won in 2011, was actually a part of the breakaway which formed just after the Arenberg Forest.
So what did we learn then from the early coverage? Well, we certainly learned that Paris-Roubaix is difficult. It's brutal from the off. The race full throttle from the gun, numerous riders trying to get into breakaways, the bunch splitting on several occasions in the crosswinds, showing that it was hard for everybody, including the team leaders.
Yeah. Now, one thing that maybe we didn't learn, but was certainly emphasised from this early coverage as well, is that actually luck plays a big part in Paris-Roubaix, perhaps more than any other race. So it was a fairly innocuous sector of pavé and a certainly innocuous crash that meant that Cancellara and Sagan were on the back foot. They were caught in a split in the peloton. It meant they were going to be chasing from there on. Then Cancellara himself lost it on a muddy section, and then Team Sky went from potentially winning hand of 4 riders in the first group to 3 of them crashing on pretty much successive muddy corners. Luke Rowe did get back on, but he'd had to use so much energy that was kind of him gone, wasn't it?
Yeah. We also saw just how important teammates can be at this race. I mean, Tony Martin in his first Paris-Roubaix almost single-handedly made sure that Cancellara and Sagan played no further part, at least in going for the podium places. Now, if it wasn't for Tony Martin, I think you have to say that Tom Bohnen's chances of taking a record 5th victory at Paris-Roubaix would have been far less.
I've just got something to add there, though. I think if I was Boonen, I'd have asked Tony Martin to sit up a little bit. He was so aero. I reckon Boonen probably wouldn't have got half as much drafting as he would have done if Tony had just, perhaps remembered he wasn't on a TT bike.
Yeah, Boonen was getting pretty low himself, wasn't he? It's good to see Boonen back in the fray.
Tony, just sit up, Tony.
What about perseverance, though? Not just over 260 Ks, but 15 years.
Yeah.
An incredible ride by Matt Hayman. Remember, he was the last survivor of that early move, and then went clear on his own for about 10 Ks as well. And it wasn't until the last 3 Ks that he actually looked like he was going to win the race.
No.
Bohnen went, he shut the gap, then went over the top again and still had enough in the tank to launch a devastating sprint that nobody could come round him. I mean, it was an absolute honour to watch that race unfold and see it finish in the velodrome, I can tell you that.
It was an honour to watch it on TV at my home.
Yeah, my home too, actually. I was honoured.
I got very excited, Mona. Look at this.
Tom Bohnen leads them into the velodrome. Vanmarcke's just gone on the wheel. This is absolutely incredible. Matt Hayman takes Paris-Roubaix. Hayman takes Roubaix from Tom Bohnen, from Ian Stannard. That was absolutely nuts.
So who exactly is Matt Hayman? Well, he hails from New South Wales in Australia. He turned pro for Rabobank right back in the year 2000, and he's now 37 years of age. He spent most of his career in the service of other riders, so people like Oscar Freire, Juan Antonio Fletcher, Bradley Wiggins, and now more recently Esteban Chavez as well. And he is, by most accounts, the ultimate teammate. He's dependable, he's experienced, he's solid as a rock, and no one, not even Boonen, could begrudge him this victory.
No, and now when he does decide to hang up his wheels, he can retire a very happy man. He owns a cobble, arguably the best trophy in the world.
And a shower now?
Oh yeah, that's right. He will have his own shower now at the Roubaix Velodrome. Now he also adds his name to a list of riders such as Johan van Someren, Servaes Knaven and Frederick Gaydon, who've won this monument, having ridden at the service of others for most of their career. And a lot of people are asking, how can you win Paris-Roubaix when you spent the majority of your time as a domestique? Well, firstly, Paris-Roubaix is a unique event with a unique set of demands. But secondly, it's also about attitude.
Yeah, well, some riders are winners. Some riders have the attitude of winners, but the physical attributes of also-rans. And then there's riders who are amazingly physically talented, but choose to ride in the service of others. And more often than not, that's a self-defined career path as well.
Now, the long-established and traditional method of preparing yourself to be in the best form for Paris-Roubaix would involve doing all the cobbled classics leading up to it and then throwing in a Paris-Nice or a Tirreno Adriatico for good measure just before that. How about then just riding your bike indoors for a few weeks?
Yeah, well, if you're Matt Hayman, that's precisely what you just would have done. He's been doing split days on his turbo trainer for several weeks. Not out of choice, it has to be said. He did have a really nasty crash at the Omloop Newsband, which is the first cobble classic of the year, and that meant that he ended up breaking a bone in his right arm.
Yeah, the immediate diagnosis was no more classics, or no spring classics for Matt Hayman in 2016. But he took to his turbo, 2-hour sessions, twice a day. Then the week before Roubaix, did a couple of smooth Spanish races, and fundamentally hit the race fresh with no pressure.
No one was looking at him.
And a great attitude.
As ever with Paris-Roubaix, it's sometimes the bikes that get almost as much publicity as the riders themselves, and with good reason, because this is the one race of the year where riders can significantly change what they ride. So we see new frames, wheels, tyres, and even gears actually on the cobbles.
Except that is, if you're Matt Hayman, who, despite the fact he's the most experienced rider on the start line, chose to ride what was pretty much his standard road bike. Also an aerodynamic bike, the Scott Foil. All he did was change the 28mm tubular tyres and put a 44 tooth inner chainring on. 44 that was, in case you missed it.
He didn't even have a second aero bar tape. And actually, we should say, that's the first aero bike ever to win Paris-Roubaix. First of many?
Possibly.
Didn't make a difference.
How about Tom Bone in second place? No gloves. Nuts.
So there we have it. What an absolutely fantastic race to watch. We'd just like to finish by saying a huge congratulations to Matt Hayman himself.
Definitely, and it's worth giving a shout out to teammate of Matt Hayman, Mitch Docker. He wasn't able to celebrate with the team at the end of the race. Took a really nasty crash in the forest of Arenberg. Get well soon, Mitch.
Yeah. Now, I suppose we've obviously got a little bit more Paris-Roubaix analysis in the GCN show this week, but otherwise, we just got to get excited about Amstel Gold now. This weekend.
Amstel Gold. Yeah, let's get excited for that.
Yeah, woohoo! Right, now, to get you going until Amstel Gold, why don't you check out some more GCN videos? If you're, if you click just up there, then you get through to a video where we look at some of the amazing bikes that riders were using on the cobbles. It was filmed at Flanders, but there's some Paris-Roubaix bikes in there as well. And
if all this talk of cobbles has got you hungry, it's certainly got me hungry, how about clicking just down here for Hannah Grant's healthy Flanders fish and chips with Brussels sprouts, and Tyler Farrer, and me.
Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. There'll be a globe somewhere on this screen. Just click on that. It's free.